a play within a play, utilizing a cast of only 6 actors playing 6 Jacobean sailors who in turn play all the parts in Shakespeare's Hamlet. That's the Theatre on the Bay's later production of Hamlet, directed by renowned director Fred Abrahamse. To tell us more, we're joined in from our Sea Point studios by a man who plays a whopping 5 characters, including the role of Hamlet. Of course, I'm talking about Marcel Meyer. Marcel, thank you very much for joining me. I can't even begin to imagine playing 5 characters. How do you wrap your creative mind around playing 5 characters with 5 different personalities, 5 different storylines, Marcel?
Well, it always helps when you've got a very good playwright, and William Shakespeare is probably the world's greatest playwright, so he just makes it so easy for you, because his characters are so clearly drawn, each of the individual characters, and you've got this magnificent language to work with and these rich, rich inner lives of all these characters. So it's actually a privilege and a joy to be able to play more than one part in a Shakespeare play.
I love you said play more than one part. In actual fact, it's 5 parts. Let's talk about this production, because it is a Hamlet on steroids. It's Hamlet completely different. And I love the fact that South Africans, or just the creative space at the moment, is where we are testing boundaries. We are doing the old but in a brand new way.
Yes, this particular production of Hamlet is based on what we now regard to be the first actual Shakespearean performance in South Africa. So in 1608, off the east coast of South Africa, the Red Dragon, which was a British merchant ship from the East India Company, was anchored off the coast of South Africa. And to keep the sailors occupied, Captain Keeling had made them perform Hamlet. And so you actually get a chance to see one of the great Shakespearean plays in a way that still uses the Elizabethan theatre traditions, but sort of looks back at now through the lens of yesterday. So it's a very exciting way to revisit a very, very famous and familiar play.
You're talking about that fame. Hamlet, I remember not only from school, but I remember so many different adaptations of Hamlet. And I remember so many different characters taking it on. And each actor, I don't know how they manage to do it, but they bring you a Hamlet that you really haven't met before. You know the story, you understand the Hamlet, but each actor is able to interpret it in a way that's very refreshing. What was your approach to Hamlet?
I think the most important thing to try and do with Hamlet is almost what I call like a Mona Lisa effect. If you just really speak that language beautifully and clearly, you want to give the audience the opportunity to see themselves in Hamlet, as opposed to forcing a reading onto an audience. I think it's far more rewarding if the audience really sees themselves in Hamlet's words and feelings. And I think that is why he is this incredible character that can be reinterpreted time and time and time again, because each new generation, each political environment where the play is performed in really makes it seem fresh and new. So I think your responsibility as an actor when you do play Hamlet is to really make the audience hear the words as clearly as possible, and the rest will take care of itself, and to really give the audience the opportunity to find themselves in Hamlet.
Take me through the other 5 characters that you will also be portraying at Theatre on the Bay.
So the other characters I play in this particular production are one of the sailors on the Red Dragon, because we open with a prologue where we set the convention of this historic performance. And then once we launch into Hamlet proper, I play one of the guards right at the beginning called Francisco, who first meet the ghost of the dead King Hamlet. I also play the ghost of the dead Hamlet, so Hamlet plays his own father's spirit, which we do in a sort of possession, so the ghost speaks through Hamlet. And then I play one of the characters in the play within the play, because that's the wonderful thing about Hamlet. He uses theatre to make a political statement, so he stages a play to try and prove that his uncle murdered his father. And in that particular play within the play, in this version, I play Lucianus, who is the murderer of the king in the play.
You know, South Africa and the world, with all respect, have this fascination with Hamlet and with the work, or with Shakespeare, I should say. and some of the more iconic pieces. I don't know if you've heard this rumor, but there is this idea that South African schools will stop pushing Shakespeare. Have you heard about it? Thoughts on it?
Yes, I have heard about it. And I think it's a terrible, terrible pity, because in 1976, our young people took to the streets to fight for an equal education, for a chance to be educated on a global level. And I think it's so short-sighted of our government to want to deprive young people of a world education. In the late 80s, Kenya was going through a similar thing, and they wanted to eradicate Western literature from the Kenyan Education Department. And the president of Kenya, who himself was a school teacher, said, you can take everything out of the syllabus, but you do not take Shakespeare out of the syllabus, because he is a universal philosopher. I mean, Shakespeare was good enough for Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathadra. They all read his works on Robben Island while they were incarcerated. It was the only book they had access to was the complete works of Shakespeare. And Chris Hani himself said, when I want to be motivated, I read Hamlet, because that forces me to take action. So I think it's so sad that our government cannot see how these great plays, universal plays, can speak to African children, Asian children. Across the world, these plays are read and performed. And I think it's very, very short-sighted to think we can just take it out of the syllabus, because we are already depriving our youth of an education that we fought for in '76 to have an equal chance at world education.
Eloquently put, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Marcel Meyer plays 5 characters, including the role of Hamlet. The production opens at the Theatre on the Bay from the 12th to the 29th, and it will be before heading, of course, to Peter Torin's Theatre at Monte Cassino in May, and then to La Mama in New York City in September 2017. So you can see the world tour is going to be amazing. Go and watch it. We take an ad break. Don't get away.